Hello friends, I'm Michael Kingswood. I write fiction for fun and profit. And now, I also talk about Star Trek because I'm a longtime Star Trek fan, but I'm a bad Star Trek fan because there are many parts of Star Trek that I had not watched before, namely Voyager and Enterprise. Both of these shows I watched the first few episodes of and then never got back to because I was doing stuff. College and then early Navy things and then other stuff after that. But now is the time to remedy that, and I'm going to remedy that here with you. We're going through the Star Trek that I missed. We're starting with Voyager. And we're doing episode 1 of Voyager right now. And we're going to continue on weekly, and maybe more in the future. With that. So, let's talk about this one. Episode 1 of Voyager. So, fun thing about Voyager is that I have heard about it forever. I know the first several episodes about it and I liked them. But I guess it's kind of got a mixed reputation. There's things about it that people like that I've heard about, things that people don't like. I have the impression it kind of kills the Borg, but I'm not sure. But the other fun thing is that it's, let's be honest here, it's basically Gilligan's Island, right? Holy cow, we're wrecked someplace and we have to get home. That's a trope that's been done forever in various other places. But they seem to do it pretty well here. And in the opening episode, which is what we're going to be covering here today, was quite charming and quite engaging. The purpose of the opening episode, of course, is to really just introduce people to the characters and the setting. And it can't be a story without a problem, but the problem is going to be ongoing in this particular series. But because at this point it was... So Star Trek was pretty much just episodic for the longest time, right? It was just, story of the week. Original series, that's how it was. The movies actually had some continuity. And then Next Generation started mostly episodic, but even in the first season, you could see some continuity, especially when you got near the end. And it got better as time went on with carrying storylines through, even just little hints of it throughout. DS9, of course, as everybody knows, we got very much with continuity of storyline, but not like the modern day thing where the story is all there is. I mean, Star Trek has always done episodic stuff a lot. But Voyager, with the premise they set up, you're going over to the other side of the galaxy, I would say it's custom made to serialization and having a complete story, but at the same time, it's nice. It's actually made for both. So I know there is a throughput story because I know from watching the later Next Generation movies that things have resolved for them, but I don't know how they did it. And I'm certain there's going to be the heroes of the weeks and villains of the weeks and threats of the weeks and aliens of the weeks and all that other stuff, but I have no idea how that's going to work out. So it's going to be fun. In watching this first episode through, I remembered, it's interesting how there were things that I remembered and things that I didn't. I knew all of the characters because I remembered all the characters existing. I didn't remember how they were introduced. And I remembered that they had the cool ship, and I remember they were in the other side of the galaxy, but I remembered nothing of the plot about the Caretaker or why they were stuck on the other end of the galaxy. It's just that they were. And like I said, I've watched several more episodes deeper on into the series. Like I remember when they came up with the idea to give the Doctor his little armband or whatever so he can get out of sickbay, but I don't know when that happened. And it's going to be fun to see when that happened. So let's go through this. Episode 1, The Caretaker. My DVD disc gets broken up into two parts: the Maquis and Son of the Admiral, which is interesting. Well, of course, Tom. But all right, so let's go straight to it. First of all, I dug it. It's a satisfactory and fun opening to the series, right? And it opens with the Maquis ship evading the Cardassians. Now, when this came out, the Maquis were still a new thing, right? It's one of those things. I knew what the Maquis were because of the end of Next Generation, where they're discussed a few times, and Ensign Ro goes to do her thing with them. And I didn't watch far enough into DS9 to see the more detailed Maquis stuff that DS9 did. But I have subsequently watched it, all of DS9, and I've got to say, the Maquis are right. Eddington is right. The Federation is wrong. Cisco is wrong. And that's all I'm going to say about that, except that the Maquis are right, and the Federation should have backed them up because they're right. And they did nothing wrong. Yeah. Disagree all you want. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But this opening sequence is good. You can argue about if there's a lot of good tension in it or not, but it doesn't really matter because that's not the point. The point is, you're introducing characters, and immediately we get snapshots. Boom, boom, boom. You immediately know that Torres, she's the engineering, and Tuvok, he's the weapons guy, and Chakotay is the captain, and they're doing their thing, and you see that Torres is a little emotional, and of course Tuvok, he's a Vulcan. He's, Vulcan-y. But you can see that Chakotay is smart and clever, and they're a good team, and they managed to evade the bad guys and get away. And then, poor Cardassians, they take some plasma to the face. But, they're Cardassians. Actually, I think the Cardassians are great, but they're also not good people. A lot of them. Except for maybe Jarek. And, let's face it, Gul Dukat was pretty awesome too. But anyway. So it's a good opening sequence. Meet those three people, and we're like, okay, we're intriguing. That we like. We're not sure what we know what the Maquis is because there's a little text message thing at the beginning about what the Maquis is, but let's be honest, this is made for people who already know Star Trek, and so it's like, okay, if they're like me, they already think the Maquis are people we want to like, and so, all right, with them. All right, then we move over. Hey, we meet Tom Paris. Or should I say Nick Locarno. Good old Tom. I wasn't around paying enough attention to this at the time, but I've subsequently learned that Tom Paris is the guy who... I'm sorry, my dog just interrupted me. Go away. Tom Paris was supposed to be the same guy who was Wesley Crusher's teammate in the first duty episode. The guy who had the idea to do the super Whammy flight thing that got their person killed, and then he ended up taking it for the team at the end after Wesley came through and told the truth after Picard basically told him, tell him or I will kind of thing. That was a really good episode, and at the time when that came out, when that episode came out, it was 93. I was getting ready to go to college. I was getting ready to be ROTC, that was into season 5. So I was applying, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, you hear the thing, the midshipman does not lie, cheat, or steal, and will not tolerate anyone who does, and that's basically the through line through that episode. And so this guy Nick Locarno, who got cast out, apparently that was what Tom Paris was supposed to be him, but for reasons that seem weird, or I've heard things about how it was a rights thing, but it doesn't make any sense because people who wrote them worked for Paramount at the time, so the rights were all Paramount's. And I've heard other things where they just said they didn't like the character. But when you meet Tom and he's there, he's doing his thing, and later on he talks about why he was in prison. Hot dog in a crash killed some people, and he got kicked out of Starfleet, and then he went off with the Maquis and got caught after that. It's like, okay, well, it's the same flavor. It's the same backstory, it's the same actor. So it's the same character, just different name, and that's fine. Whatever. But I instantly like Tom. He's obviously at first blush, he doesn't take crap. He's got an attitude. He's got a little bit of chip on his shoulder, which, you know, you can understand about it. But also, he is honest. Right? He's like, hey, what's in it for me? And Janeway, who we meet here as well, she comes off as very stern but fair in this first scene with her. And she's like, hey, look, it'll be good for you. You can have, maybe you'll get a better deal if you help us out with this. And Tom's like, all right, cool. So I like him right off the bat. So that's great. Next thing we go, and we meet the ship, and we meet Harry Kim. And Harry is instantly likable. This guy, he is, he does the brand new wet behind the ears guy who's like earnest and wanting to do great things perfectly. And the fact that he's immediately put up against Quark, who, man, it's great to see Quark. And I love that. I love the scam that Quark tries to put on him. This is from the race of people called the Morns. And then it scans over in Morn. The most evocative character on DS9 is sitting right next to Harry. But Harry doesn't know that that is Morn. And of course, Morn, for the first time ever, he shuts up and doesn't say anything. It's like, damn it, man. And Harry, he gets the... he's sniffing it. It's like, I heard about you, Ferengi. And Quark's instantly jumping on him, and he's about to be taken. And there, Harry's folding like a paper napkin, and it's like, oh gosh, no. And then Tom comes and saves him, and it's like, thank you, Tom. But as a great scene, great introduction to Harry, and it's always fun to see Quark. I love Quark. But the ship, so Voyager, the hot Betazoid girl who is gonna die in a few minutes, is taking Tom to the ship. And I remember watching this when it first came out, and it's like, wow, this is really impressive. It's like, this is our new Intrepid class ship, and it's like, oh, it's cool looking. It's like, it's sustained maximum sustained speed of 9.9 warp 9.975, and it's like, and the neural network of computers and all this other great and this stuff, and 140 crew members, and that sounds a little bit like technical babblese, but at the same time, it's like, okay, so there's a few things you know right off the bat. It's a brand new class of ship, brand new. Recently commissioned kind of thing, and it's state of the art, right? Because of the computer stuff. But you also know it's a small ship. It's not, we're used to by this point in the Next Generation, the Galaxy class ship that's, more than 1,000 people on board, and it's huge, and it's overpowered, and it's great, and it's top of the line kind of thing, but not anymore, because at this point in time, we're well past the Borg incursion, and the Starfleet is gearing up for what they think is going to be the Dominion War. If I remember the timeline right, with where this falls in DS9, and I think that is right. They started building up after the Borg, and the Dominion War helps out with them. But this is a small ship, and it's only 140 crew members. Enterprise D, the Galaxy class, has over 1,000, and half of those people are, the first Enterprise had 400. Military people. This one is 1,000 with wives and children, and which I guess makes sense if you're foolish. and your you think that eternal peace is always going to happen. But one thing that always bothered me about the openings with DS9 is when they're going to Wharf 359. They're going to go fight the Borg, but they didn't drop the wives and kids off before they went to battle. And that's Sisko's wife dies, and he escapes with his son, and that's his whole thing with his beginning of his character arc. But it's like, what kind of retards are you that you didn't leave you offload the kids and the civilians before you went to battle? They had time, but anyway. My point is that we instantly see as we get on the ship that it's not the kind of luxury liner thing that Galaxy class Enterprise is. 140 crew members, so it's a destroyer, maybe a frigate. It's a smaller vessel in terms of capability. It's faster, quite a lot faster. But a smaller crew, lower capability, and when we get inside it, it's like looking around at the sets, and it's like, now this is a proper warship. I mean, they go into the cruise mess there, and I'm pretty sure that's the same set as the use for the Defiant on DS9. I could be wrong, but the bridge and the passageways and the quarters, it's like, yeah, this is not the luxury liner that the Enterprise D was. And it's good because, there's a lot of people who have bought into Gene Roddenberry's idiocy of saying the Starfleet isn't a military when it obviously is. And it's there's a proper way to design a warship and a proper way to man a warship, and frankly, the Enterprise D wasn't really with it, but. Of course, they were in their hoo-ha, yay, peace and love and rah-rah kind of time of the Federation then, and I guess they could have gotten away with it for a bit. But anyway, the Voyager looks cool. It's state-of-the-art. It's a very different feel. It's pretty great. We like it immediately. And we cut to Janeway over in her quarters, and she's all lovey-dovey about her dog. But her man is kind of like on the next level down, which I can, I got my doggy. She's lying here right next to me, and, I don't think I would put her above a girlfriend or a wife. But I think she's also kind of being a little tongue-in-cheek with her guy there. And they tease each other, go back and forth. And it's great that it seems like she's going to be missing her man, and he's going to miss her, and it's like what happens ends up being more tragic, which is awesome. Great. But one other thing. I'm just looking at my notes here about the Voyager. The hull number, NCC 74656. Enterprise was NCC 1701. So there have been 73,000 ships built between the original Constitution-class Enterprise and Voyager. Over a span of about 100 years. And amidst a civilization that spans multiple star systems and spread out over most of a quadrant of the galaxy. The nature could be 73,000 ships. How is that possible? I mean, when I was on my Navy tour, for my first Navy tour on the submarine, I was on USS Kamehameha, SSN 642, commissioned in 1960. Was it 63? 64, something like that. 63. When we decommissioned her at the end of 2001, the newest ship in the submarine fleet was hull number 7. Well, hell, the hull number 23 at that point. So, but 773, but then they reset for the Seawolf class. So add 3 more. So let's call it 776. So in those 38 years, it was, what is that? 642, 773, 134 ships in those 38 years. That is astronomically less than the 73,000 ships that have gone between Constitution class Enterprise and Voyager, Intrepid class Voyager. Now, that having been said, I'm comparing it with one navy and one nation and one planet, whereas the Federation has dozens, if not hundreds of planets. I don't even know the numbers across a good chunk of the galaxy. I think 30% of the galaxy has been charted, if I remember right, in the Next Generation time. So that's a lot of resources and a lot of time and money that you're going to need a lot of ships to patrol that kind of space, which means that at the same time, the Wolf 359 battle, where they lost 40 ships, was presented as being a tremendous, huge, cataclysmic loss. But if in 100 years they had 73,000 ships, that's 730 ships built per year in those 100 years. So it's like, okay. So Star Trek is not always great for continuity. But, it's interesting to think about. Anyway, so there in the mess hall, we learned the backstory about Tom, where he is he's given the cold shoulder by the XO, and he tells Harry, I crashed the thing, people got killed, I got kicked out, and he's, Harry tries to console him, and Tom's like, hey, he's talking about echoes of the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future with in the way he responds. But, he comes at Harry basically saying, come at me, bro, you're going to hate me too. And Harry's like, no, dude, I don't hate you. I don't need other people to tell me who my friends are going to be. And it's yet another chip on Harry's side where we instantly love this guy. So, boom. So, Harry's a good dude. You could tell he wants to like Tom. The bromance between Tom and Harry is starting, and I know that bromance is going to continue for a long time, so that's great to see. Alright, so they go out to the Badlands. They're doing their thing. They're trying to find the bad guy Maquis people who are actually the good guys, but let's just leave it at that for now. And holy cow, techno babble. The thingy doozy with the what's it comes along and with the wavefront curvature thing and zips them across the other side of the galaxy. Of course, we don't know what's upside the galaxy. There's the bridge is smashed, people are dead, Exo's dead, the cute Betazoid girl's dead, the doctor's dead, a whole bunch of other people is dead. Holy smokes, where the hell are we? And they manage to get the view screen going. They see the station, and Harry is like, hey, holy cow, look, according to this, we're 70,000 light years away, all the way on the other side of the galaxy. I'm sorry, Harry, according to what? Man, this is one of those things where the engineer side of me is going to come through and nitpick, because their ship has inertial navigation systems built into it where it can, compute its where it is from its previous position and acceleration rates and all that sort of thing, and that's fine. But it just got warped away from, so that whole thing's out of the way. There's no stations or telemetry units they can tune into over here where they can get a fix off of a in-place station. Man, let's be honest, there's no stars they can do celestial navigation from. And even if there were, because let's think about this, where we are, we have the map of the stars pretty well, and we can compute our position from the stars pretty easily, but that's from our solar system. We have done observations and we've plotted out the spiral arms of the galaxy, and we knew all that, with pretty good precision, we think. But when we look towards Sagittarius and beyond, we see the dust clouds of the Milky Way. We see the supermassive black hole in the center of the galaxy. We see the Sagittarius and all the other stars near it. And we can kind of see past it and see all this other things, but there's a little bit of a clutter, right? It's not nearly as precise as the local stars, and it's not nearly as easy to pick out. So if you took us and put us the other side of the galaxy, on the other side of the supermassive black hole, and can't see Sagittarius anymore, can't see any. I mean, you might be able to see it, but it's from an opposite directions. You wouldn't immediately be able to pick out the constellations. You wouldn't be able to, it might be possible to plot your position there, but it would take weeks or months at best. But there is there. Hey, look at this. We're 70,000 light years away. Now, I get it. It's a TV show. It's plot. You got to move the plot forward. But, it's going to be contrived. As is the fact that Harry is there at all. Harry and Tom go in and they meet the captain before all this stuff happens. And Tom's already met the captain, but she does the formal welcome aboard. Yeehaw, hoo-yah. And they go out on the bridge, and Janeway's smiling. She's like, "Hey, Harry, this is your station." He's like, "Hey, great, I'm going up into my station. I'm doing my thing." He's like, "Hang on a second there, shipmate. You just got commissioned. You just graduated. You just got commissioned. You just showed up to the ship, which you have never set foot on before. You don't know its systems. You don't know its procedures. You know the basics of how to do your job, but you don't know the specifics of the ship. You can't just 2 minutes on board, step up and be competent, do a thing. That's not how life works. He would have had, weeks of indoctrination, acclimation, qualifying on the specific ship systems before he would be, not worthy, but, competent to be able to stand that watch. But again, it's a TV show. You just got to go with it. If you want real representation of how qualifying on a new ship works, read my book, Warfare Qualified, based on the real Navy. Advanced new shows up, and it takes them weeks or months to get that qualified, and that's what we show in that book of mine. But anyway, but Harry's there. He's doing his thing. Cool. So the Doctor is dead. They start up the emergency hologram program. I remember this guy back when I first saw it. I remember he was awesome and immediately liked him. And immediately liked him now because he's just no nonsense. My dog just racked my computer desk. Jerk. Anyway, it's immediately no nonsense, but also funny in the deadpan kind of way, which is great. Liked him a lot immediately. But they're there that little station, and I was like, hey, what the heck is that? And holy cow, everybody gets beamed away. Oh my gosh. Immediately I'm like, what are they on the holodeck? My first thought when they came around after being beamed off the ship is like, hey, they're on a holodeck. Hey, but at least there's a hot girl, that girl who's kind of teasing Tom, and the others is like, man, okay, yeah, I'll take your phone number. But I mean, it's good that they're all suspicious because it's an obvious trap. All the same, they get ambushed by a bunch of hillbillies with banjos and weapons. Shocker, but that's all right. They all get taken into that little medical place, and when they get strapped down, the little implements go in. I was reminded of the Shrike. You guys remember? Jesus, I'm losing track of the I'm losing track of the science fiction book that it was from. The Canterbury Tales in Space. The whatever, Canterbury Tales in Space. They're meeting, they're trying to solve a mystery. The Shrike is like this weird thing that impales people on this tree of woe and this tree of pain, and they're all this sort of thing. And it turns out that the Shrike is sort of a real thing, but in reality, it's just wiping people away and plugging them into a computer, and they're on there, and they think they're suffering, but they're not really. They're just sort of on a computer suffering. And I was reminded of the Shrike. What the? I hate when I do this. I am the worst with names, but I love this book series so much, and I don't. Hyperion, Dan Simmons, Hyperion. The Shrike. I was reminded of the Shrike's Tree of Pain in Hyperion when they were all put in those medical slats in there and the things started going in. I don't know if that was an intentional thing, but it was something that was reminiscent for me. But then they all get impaled, and then suddenly they're back on the ship, and suddenly the bridge is like fully repaired. And I'm immediately thinking they're still on a holodeck. Kind of like in Ship in the Bottle and Next Generation, when it takes them a while to realize on the holodeck. I'm thinking they're still on the holodeck because the Moriarty was pulling a fast one on them. That's what I'm thinking. It's been 20 years since I watched this, so it's like, oh, Jesus, more like 30 years since I watched this. It's like, dude, they're still on the holodeck. This is all a farce. They're not really back on the ship, but apparently they were actually really back on the ship. It might have been more interesting if it was a farce, but it is what it is. But they determined that the only people who are missing are Torres and Harry, and Tom is incensed, so we gotta save Harry, and he's like, oh, the bromance is already going strong, and that's great. It's like, man, so they're off. They're trying to figure out what the hell's going on and find their two people. And Chakotay and Janeway are coordinating because, we're okay. I'm Starfleet. You're Maquis. We're technically on the opposite team here, but we're on the other side of the galaxy, and we have missing crew members. Let's work together. Yeah, probably a good idea. So that works. That makes sense. But is what it is. So as they're trying to figure out where they went, I got more of a picture of the Voyager. I really like the bridge. Like I said, it looks like a proper warship, and the captain's ready room right off the bridge is awesome. But I noticed it's like, holy cow, the ceilings are high. I mean, it is more than 12-foot ceilings. I mean, how big is this ship? I mean, I'm okay. I was on a submarine, and I'm 5'9", so I was a perfect height. I had guys who served with me who were 6'5", 6'6", and they all developed stoops. But I'm like, even still, I occasionally hit my head. But I've been on, surface warships, destroyers, and cruisers. I spent time on them and aircraft carriers, and they're taller, but they're still not this 12-foot high ceiling like Janeway has in her ready room. Like, holy God. I hope you don't have any kind of a casualty in there or a hull breach, because it can be a pain in the neck to seal everything off. I understand why it's as big as it is. It makes it easier to film, but it's like, okay, that's not a real ship. That's not how ships work. But, whatever. I'll go with it. It's fine. But, Janeway is, found remembering a message from Harry's parents or something. I forget. But it's like, holy cow, Harry went to Juilliard. The Juilliard School of Music in New York City. I mean, that's great. He's a musician, but it's not exactly astronaut, Starfleet, you know, military career track. But of course, it's Star Trek. It's the Next Generation time frame, the end of it, and so it's like, okay, it's I guess a little less regimented than might be thinking now. But at the same time, he's the tactical dude. He's the security dude. He's it just seems. I mean, who knows? Maybe this in the future they go there to Juilliard for a semester or two, and then they go on to other things. But it seems like it'd be something. If the career track he's on, it'd be studying something else. Anyway, so yeah, but then Janeway and Chakotay and Chakotay's and Tuvok and the rest of Chakotay's guy meet up, and they're like, hey, but sorry, Chakotay, Tuvok's really my guy. And it's like, well, that's quite upsetting. Vulcan, you were going to turn us in. And he's like, you came here just to turn us in? He's like, no, I came here for information. Man, I was also going to turn you in. It's like, that's great. It's like, hey, and then there's a little thing where Tuvok's like, they're like, oh, we're missing people. And it's like, Tuvok says, Vulcans do not worry. It's like, really, dude? It's like, okay, well, I missed them. It's like, yeah, so you were worried about them. Dummy. Anyway, so Harry and Torres, B'Elanna wake up in the hospital, and it's a nice little back and forth between them. She's just calling him Starfleet. He's eventually says, hey, Maquis, what's your name? And they, actually get to know each other a bit, and that's great. So it's a nice little character building thing between the two of them. But then we learn they're all gonna die. Well, not necessarily die, but yeah. It's hinted at, and then it gets confirmed later. They're both gonna die because of they got sent here at the hospital by this caretaker thing, but we don't know what it is. But we've learned more about that later. Anyway, then the Enterprise, the Voyager guys meet Neelix in orbit around the planet there. And I remembered Neelix from first time I saw this. And I remember liking him a lot. And I like him immediately too. And it's like, but it's kind of weird. He's comes off as a little opportunistic, a little bit slimy. At the same time, it's like, hey, you got water? It's like, you have water. You realize hydrogen is the most common element in the universe, and oxygen isn't that much lower down in terms of commonality. And if you're on a spaceship, and you're able to breathe, you probably have both, and we have the ability now to take hydrogen and oxygen and make them into water. Pretty simply. But apparently these guys on the other side of the galaxy can't. Okay, whatever. So they recruit Neelix, and he brings them down to the 5th planet where the station is beaming energy into every few seconds, and they meet the desert guys. They look like Lord Humongous's people almost from Road Warrior. The heck is their name? I've got it called up here. Hang on. What is their name? The Kevans, the something, the Doozles. What's their name? I'm looking it up. I couldn't remember it. Helix, blah, 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 blah. The Kazon. That's those guys. So you come across those dudes. And they were on the surface of this planet. We later find out they have the ability to have space travel, and they have fairly competent ships because they were given the Voyager and the Maquis ship, both a pretty decent fight. But they're like in this little, living in this little hovel on this planet. It's like, wait a minute, and they can't find water. Again, some of the two most common elements in the universe, but whatever. Anyway, they're kind of jerks, these Kazon guys. And Neelix shows up as being a bit of a smarmy jerk to them, which, since he's on our side, is like, all right, that's cool. But at the same time, is like, doesn't come across exactly trustworthy. Though I will say, the outfit he made the ship replicate for him is amazing. It's the most incredible suit of all time. I mean, it goes with his coloration awesomely, but it's like, dude, that's just great. Sorry. But this is where we meet Kes, who's like Ocampa, and we learned that the Ocampa only lived for like 9 years. Well, that sucks. And apparently they were being sustained by the Caretaker, who goes to who just takes care of them. They don't have to do anything. So as she said, we've gained a talent for dependence. And Kes hates that. And hey, it's nonconformist, my kind of nonconformist, because dependence is sucking. That's annoying. Let's see, then we jump back to B'Elanna and Harry. It turned out that B'Elanna went to the academy as well, because, you know, they're so did Tom. And Tom went to be the Maquis. And I can understand why guys who are and gals who are in Starfleet would look at the Maquis situation and be like, yeah, I need to help them out because they're in the right here. I think I would if I was in their place. Like I said, Eddington was the hero, Sisko was the villain. Even though I love Sisko, but still. That's what. I love the Professor Sneezy Zakarian. It's sneezy. And, you know, it's nice to know that they still make fun of professors in their age. Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, so they just let B'Elanna and Harry out to roam around. Like, oh, well, yeah, you're dying anyway, so might as well let you roam around. Hey, they have this tasteless food that the Caretaker provides to us all the time, and our young people wish there was more taste and more zip to it, but, you know, they suck. They don't know what they're talking about. This takes care of all of our needs. And apparently we only live 9 years anyway, so why should we enjoy our food while we live in, I guess? Okay, that sucks. But, there's no security in the Ocampa's place. And they're just kind of like, just do your thing. I guess they don't care because they're going to die. Well, but like Cass alluded to, they have learned helplessness because the Caretaker, and this is, I'm just going to get ahead on this. I was going to cover this one later when Janeway and the Caretaker talk, but so the Caretaker is this Voyager from another galaxy, right? He and the female here, the other Caretaker, I think he said she was a female who abandoned him. And then the rest of those people, they showed up and they didn't know what the hell they were doing and unintentionally scorched the Ocampa's planet, made it into a desert so they couldn't live. So the rest of them moved on, and the Caretaker and his companion were left here to take care of these people. And so they built the underground structure, they built all the complex, and feeding them energy continuously. And at some point, the Caretaker's companion, she says, peace out. And this guy, who is from a race that's advanced enough to go between galaxies to explore. We're talking millions of light, a journey of millions of light years to explore. Can't figure out what learned helplessness is. Can't figure out that if you supply people with everything they need all the time, they will become helpless and unable to take care of themselves, and you're ultimately dooming them. You can't figure that out. He's never encountered this concept before. So he turns the Ocampa into whatever they were, into this just pathetic bunch of people who can't think, can't do except just collect from the caretaker, and he's dying, and he's like, oh, when I die, they're screwed. So he's charging up their energy banks as much as he can. And he's destroying the tunnels so that the Kazon people can't come down and take what they have. But it's like, dude, they're only charged up enough for 5 years. Then they're screwed. And that's just why he was kidnapping all of these people. He was trying to find somebody to raise up in his place. But of course, he had to know that wasn't going to be. He's been there for however long and never looked ahead to the future to think that, hey, maybe I should help these people to learn to stand on their own and be self-sufficient. It's kind of a retarded plan for a guy who's part of a species that is able to travel between galaxies. It's just like, I don't know. I don't like it, but it is what it is. Anyway, so Harry and B'Elanna are getting ready to leave, and Janeway and the others are coming down to get them. And as they're going back out through the tunnels, I was like, given as they're going through the tunnels or make their way through the complex and back up, it was like, man, I was getting THX 1138 vibes of that one part where they climb up out of the tunnel at the end and they push themselves out into the desert. It's like the end of THX 1138, and he's finally climbs out. It's like, I got great vibes of that. But it was but yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, so Tom has to save Chakotay. He doesn't have to, but he chooses to. And it's great because Chakotay still hates him. He's like, you jackass. He's giving him crap, and Tom's giving it right back to him. He's like, you're gonna owe me your life. And Chakotay's, that's the wrong tribe, you jerk. And Tom's like, no, it isn't, and you know it. And Chakotay's like, damn it, you son of a bitch! I hate that this guy is saving me. That's just great. Anyway, they get back to the ship, and they have the big fight out in space, right? And but how do they get back to this? But wait, then Janeway realizes she has to go to the station to talk to the caretaker guy. But they're in battle, and they're doing space fight, and their shields are up, and it's been well established in Star Trek many, many times that you can't beam through shields. And I've seen a number of commentators make a big deal about this. It's like, oh, sometimes you can beam through shields, and sometimes you can't. And oh, this is so upsetting. How is this? Why is this not consistent? To which I say, it is consistent, and it makes sense, because it's your ship. It's your transporter. It's your shields. And how much time does it take to transport on a transporter from one place to another? Leave aside the ones where Chief O'Brien has to do the massaging of the buffer of whatever. Even at that point, he's got everything in the buffer already. What's the transmit time for the transporter? A fraction of a second, right? So you're on your ship, you're transporting from your transporter, you hit energize, your transporter is networked into the rest of your ship, shields drop for a microsecond, transport happens, shields come back up. Is there a risk to the ship during that time? Yeah, maybe, but not a lot. Now, so there have been commentators who have complained about the Enterprise beaming through its own shields many times. And it's like, oh, that can't work. Well, yes, it can, because, it's called coordination between ship systems. Now, if the other ship across the way has their shields up, you couldn't coordinate it, so you probably you better not be able to beam through their shields. But I think you can beam through your shields. Yeah, sure. That's fine. Only reason I bring that up is I've been listening to my man Lore Runner's ruminations about Next Generation a lot in the last couple of weeks. And he keeps harping about that. And it's like, dude, it's not that hard to figure out. It's just a quick drop, beam, quick back. You know, it's easy to coordinate. Anyway. But yeah, Janeway's over there, and she's talking to the caretaker. He's like, oh, no, the Okapa, they're my children. And Jane was like, hey, well, you know, children have to grow up. And he's like, yeah, duh. That's what I was talking about a few minutes ago. How does this guy not know the harm he is doing to this people? I mean, he's turned them into pathetic creatures, and it's... Like I said, he never actually comes to understand what he's done. He's just overcome with guilt because he's unwittingly destroyed their planet, and he wants to protect them, which is understandable. But it's like, dude, you have destroyed them by the way you protected them, and now they're locked in their little place underground because he blasted all the places so that Kazon can't come in and steal what they have. And the security barriers mostly prevent them from getting out. But it's like, hey, man, in 5 years, they're screwed. But, you know. And he refuses to change his mind, and he dies. And then Janeway goes back, and the battle continues. And Tuvok says the absolutely stupidest thing about this. You know, the battle's going on, and we need to protect the Okampa, and the Kazon are attacking us, but we also need to go home. And Tuvok brings up the Prime Directive. The Prime Directive will apply. It's like, no, it doesn't. The Prime Directive is for interaction with pre-warp civilizations who are not spacefaring and don't know about other creatures in the galaxy. That is not the case of any of these people. The Prime Directive. This reminds me of the beginning of season 2 of DS9, where the Voyager Civil War is happening, and we know that if the wrong people take power, the Cardassians are just going to swoop back in. And the Starfleet Admirals, yeah, this really sucks, but the Prime Directive applies. No, it doesn't! They're part of the galactic community already. You asses. Anyway, so the dog is barking. It's being annoying, and so I had to stop to let her calm down so we could finish this in peace. Anyway, so battle's going on. And the big bad ship comes along that's going to giving Voyager a hard time, giving Chakotay's ship a hard time, and Chakotay is awesome. He beams all his crew out. It's like, I'm going in, ramming speed, and they're like, no, keep a lock on him. And his last possible second, he jamming speed, takes out the big bad ship, and that big bad ship does damage to the station, and it's like, oh yeah, good job, Chakotay. Yeah, good job. And then comes the decision. And I know people have given Janeway some flack about this decision, and I do too, because on the one hand, you know, you blow up the station, you can't get home. And then the Okampa, they're at the mercy of the Kazon, and the Kazon are going to do bad stuff to them, and then they're screwed. On the other hand, you use the station, you go home, and the Okampa... I said that wrong. On the one hand, you use the station to go home. The Okampa are screwed. They're at the mercy of the Kazon. The Kazon are kill them. Take all their water. Oh my god. On the other hand, you blow up the station, and the Okampa are screwed. They're going to run out of power in 5 years, and they have no ability, no knowledge, and no drive to take care of themselves apart from the Caretaker's beneficence, and then either way, they're all going to die. So, is it the more feel-good, moral choice to blow up the station and take their chances? Maybe, but is it the right choice? I don't know that it actually matters. And maybe we'll learn more about the Ocampo and the Kazon in episodes ahead, but we better not, because these guys better be booking their ass back towards the Alpha Quadrant, and never see these people again. But either choice would have been moral and correct. Well, maybe not. Neither choice is obviously more moral and correct than the other. You could argue that the self-sacrifice will take it on the chin, so these guys will have a better chance. It's probably more moral, but given the reality of what the Okaba have turned into, I'm not sure that it matters. And regardless, Janeway gives the order, they blow up the station, and now they're 70,000 light years from home. And she says it's going to take 75 years to get there. Yeah, problem is, I have read the Starfleet Technical Manual back in high school. My friend had a copy of it. And I remember back then learning about warp factors and warp speed. And the original series warp speed was the speed you were going at warp was the cube of the warp factor. So warp 3 was 27 times speed of light. Warp 7 was 343. Warp 9 was, yeehaw. In Next Generation, they re-wickered the warp factor formula to make the speeds a little faster, but also put the stupidest notion ever in, that warp 10 is infinite speed. You go ever in the galaxy. You lose locality if you ever get to warp 10, which is insanely stupid when you think about it, and especially when you look at it's sort of a logarithmic plot scale, but warp 1 is 1. Here, let me show you. This is off of Memory Alpha. It's the warp speed plot that they took from the technical manual, right? So you go from 1 to 10 to 38 to 101 to 213 to 392, boom, boom, boom. So this, increasing, logarithmically, exponentially increasing thing. But then you get from 9 to 10, it's this asymptote to infinity, which is like, hey, hang on a second, shipmate. This is like a vastly overstated, way too much, jump from 1,500 times the speed of light to infinity. And even on an exponential increased scale, it's like that doesn't work. On a logarithmic plot, that wouldn't work either. Well, whatever. It's Star Trek. You don't have to be that technically accurate. That said, Warp 9 is 1,500 times the speed of light. So for 70,000 light years away, 70,000 divided by 1,500 is far less than 75 years. That said, they have to have fuel. One thing I remember from the technical manual was the Enterprise D had a scoop mechanism that would suck in hydrogen molecules into interstellar space. They wouldn't refuel them. It wouldn't, because the perpetual motion is impossible. It wouldn't refuel them completely, but it would help reduced the amount of draw they had from their hydrogen and deuterium tanks. But they do have to refuel with hydrogen and deuterium and antimatter at some point. So they couldn't stay at, because the cute Betazed girl at the very beginning said the max sustained speed 9.975, which means they can go warp 9.975 sustainably without having issues. If warp 9 is 1500 times the speed of light and warp 10 is infinite, 9.975 is a lot. Somewhere else on Memory Alpha, they could do some computations, and what Voyager did at 975, it comes out to like 2400 times the speed of light or something. But when I think about it, it probably should be more than that if you're asymptotically approaching infinity at warp 10. But whatever. Point is, say it's going to be far less than 75 years. But when you have to stop to get gas and all this stuff, and also these guys were, out on a regular patrol. They're outfitted for deployment. They've probably got spare parts and stuff on board. For U.S. Navy, you go out on deployment, you take a 90-day loadout of parts, right? Parts and food and stuff. Now, food's not this big an issue in Star Trek because the replicators, but that comes down to fuel, because replicators create their food from the energy that the warp drive is putting out, right? So but you still need spare parts. Of course, you can replicate spare parts. Okay. Yeah, you can do that. Assuming, yeah, okay, you can replicate spare parts. Okay, but that takes more fuel. So, you need spare parts, you need fuel, you need a bunch of other stuff. And just because you have spare parts, if you take any battle damage at all, you're going to have to put into a dry dock or some kind of space dock. It's like, yeah, so the idea that, okay, maybe 75 years isn't that off. It probably would take longer than that. In reality, they would never make it back. In reality, even with all their semi-magical technology, they're not getting home. But, which is what Janeway said. She's like, hey, we're never getting home, so we're going to go and try to find portals and wormholes and anything we can find to get back. And we're do as much good as we do. And it's really great to see the Maquis guys. Chakotay is the first officer. Yeehaw, Torres, the engineer's dead, so she's going to be the engineer. And the other Maquis guys coming into place, which is good because they are in the right. They're the moral people. And so, hey, we'll have a good moral influence from the Maquis on the Starfleet, which is good because Starfleet needs that moral influence. And then they're off. They're going to do good stuff on their way home, which is awesome. And what else? What other plot points do I have to talk about? Oh yeah, then they go off. They go on to warp, and they warp away. And if we're going to be at all consistent with their plot, with their plan to get the hell home, we will never see the Kazon or the Ocampa again. I guess we'll see if that happens. Anyway. Oh yeah, and Neelix and Kes join the ship because, they're cool and we like them. And, hey, sweet. So we have our crew. So the first episode is supposed to introduce the people, introduce the characters, give us a feel for who everybody is. It's supposed to give a feel for the setting, and have an engaging plot to suck people in so they can meet the characters in the setting. And I think this did a good job of it. All the characters. Is there anyone who's not likable? I mean, Neelix, you like him, but you don't think you can trust him. B'Elanna, Torres, I don't know. I don't know that I like her that much. I understand her, but she's kind of, instantly like Harry, like Tom, but know that he's got some issues. Chakotay is the honorable dude, and because he's a leader in the Maquis, we know he is a moral man, so we like him. Tuvok, he's kind of generic Vulcan at this point. Cass is a pretty face, but we don't know much about her yet. Janeway is interesting because she can come off as stern and also is very no nonsense, but she's also very in tune with her people and cares and is willing to give grace and willing to give grace more than many other people probably would in her place. A lot of insight, but at the same time she's tough, so I like her. Let's see. And the Doctor hologram. He's awesome. He's just great. We'll see more of him as we go. Didn't see him that much in this episode because there's not much you could do with him except that he's like, the funny part is they forgot to turn me off again like 3 times, and it's great in this episode. So I think it did a good job setting up the characters, setting up the setting and the problem, and we're moving on. And I think we're looking forward to seeing this next one. I watched this with my son, one of my sons, who I have tried to get him. I've tried to get all my kids to watch Star Trek with me, and they have all refused. But I've forced him to watch this with me, and he was like, "Man, that was pretty good." I was like, "I told you." He's like, "Yeah." So we're gonna watch more of it, and he's like, "Yeah, that'd be good." I'm like, "Cool." So just from that input from the from the person who was forced to watch it, who had no interest in it, but still thought it was good and was interesting to see more, it did its job and did it well. So yeah, so I dug it. Good intro to the series. Now I had already seen this, so I had seen it once 30 years ago, so I knew I already was going to like it, but I didn't remember a lot. I don't know what's coming on the next one, because I don't remember that much of Voyager past the first few episodes, and I don't remember what happened in what order when, so this will be fun to check it out. So if you want to join me on this journey, make sure you have subscribed here, like it, share with your people. And like I said, I write fiction myself. I write military science fiction most recently, and I have a novel, Warfare Qualified, which I showed you before, which fills the hole that Star Trek could not with Harry Kim in terms of how do you get qualified, and has some other fun stuff going on in it. And I made a cool little video for it that I'm going to show you here in a second. You should go check it out. Check out my stuff. But even if you don't want to do that, come back and next time. At this point, we're going to do this at least once. Plan on doing this once a week on Tuesdays. As I see how my schedule works out, we may do more than that. I would like to do 2 a week. I'm just unsure about if I'm going to be able to. So anyway, tune in, subscribe, hit the notification thing so you can see when I have the next one up. And thanks for joining me here. Talk to you for episode 2. Until then, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And go, check out this book and then go buy it.